So I've just started a new brand design project, and today I'm going to walk you through the entire progress of building it from scratch. Now that I'm starting a new brand, there's always like a lot of things that goes before I actually start designing the brand. And since I'm creating a brief for myself, and if you're practicing as a designer, you want to start practicing, I encourage you also do this method because it helps you to like just learn how to do research, learn how to look at other brands, learn how to reference things very good. So for this brand, I'm currently creating a brand that is outside. I'm creating an outside brand, like an outside life wear for like camping, hiking, water bottles, that kind of stuff. That's like the direction I'm heading into. And in order to do so and to have like inspiration of brands that I already have like a look and feel, because I wanted to look like a bit luxurious, a bit like high end, not a very cheap one. And in order to get that, I've been looking for inspiration on brands. So I had this YouTube video I watched of Tatsuki on YouTube. I think what was his? I forgot his name. Tatsuki, yes. You can see it here. I'm currently watching his video. I watched a video of Tatsuki over the weekend and I saw a water bottle he highlighted of Snow Peak, and that brand, how it looked, just looked very visually good, even though the bottle was a bit old. But that is what inspired me to create this brand, and that's what we're going to be creating. So I had that as a reference, so I checked Snow Peak's website, looked at like the design, the font, how they use their imagery, typography, etc. And now I also looked at Montbell, because that's also something I've heard a lot among my friends and also just people that are hiking. So make sure you like gather at least 3 to 4, let's just say 3, 4, 5 brands in order for you to do research, to like go through their colors, go through their typography, to go through like their imagery, how they show their brand outside visually. And then based on that, I tried to create a brief for my own project, which is a fake project. I have to come up with a name, we have to come up with a logo, with of course a demographic that we're going to be highlighting, what colors are we going to be using. But in order to get there, you need to have a brand brief that can help you have restrictions and also make sure that you're not doing everything in one brand. Before I start even designing and doing anything, I'm creating my brand brief, and that's what we're focusing on today. Before I even start designing, it is very important that you know what you're designing. And that is what happens when you create a brand brief. This can take like a long time, or it can take very shortly. But since I'm doing everything on my own, it can take some time. So I'm just taking today to like look for inspiration, look at brands that I like. And then based on that, we can look at like, okay, what is the brand name is going to be? What is the demographic that we're going to be reaching out, etc, etc. I did some research on brands that I really liked. Something like Montbell, something like the brand Snow Peak and everything that I saw. I'm going to pop the brand brief in screen, and that's what we're going to be working on today. This brand is heavily inspired by the experiences that I've had in real life. One of those experiences is when I went to the store to New York with my friends for the first time, and we saw a kid store. And because I recently got a hoodie from my colleague, which I'll always be grateful for, I have a kid hoodie. I recognized the brand because he always talked about it and stuff, and I was like, you know what, let me just see what this brand is about when we went to New York. That's when I saw the kid store. And I'm telling you, these guys think about every single little detail that you think that you can't even think about. For example, branding wise, everything was on point, from the cones of the ice creams that we had to the walls with the pattern of the kids store logo. Everything was on brand. You had when I stepped into the store, it felt like I was entering a premium experience, and that is the same kind of feeling that I want this brand to have. And kids really masters that, at least from the one store that I visited, and I still remember to this day how I was just in awe, because everything had his branding. The ice cream cone had his branding, the store, it even had like a back store where you could shop and do some shopping. It was really good. And then another experience that I had, my friend Marita came to visit from America. We went to the store Nude Project, and it was my first time visiting. I never knew what they were or what the store was about, but once you entered that store, it felt like you just caught a vibe. The store was designed to catch a vibe. There was a DJ booth, there was music playing. I think there was even a text message to Snoop Dogg and a CEO of the company. It was really fun, like a very fun vibe that the brand had, and it makes you want to be part of their movement. And that is also a similar feeling that I want this brand to have, which is why I wanted to go with a name that is very easy to say and is straight to the point, which is why I came up with Blank. That might still change, but I think for now that's going to be the brand name. simple. It's not gonna be a brand with a lot of patterns and all these crazy things. No, I want this brand to be very simple so that it looks premium, cool, and aesthetically pleasing. I was just doing some research on Pinterest, writing some things down to like get my head flowing, and I came up with an idea. I'd identify from these premium brands is that one, they don't overdo it, they keep it very simple, and that is really hard as a designer. Sometimes you want to do so much, whereas the answer is to keep it always, just keep it simple. Two, they use very clean colors. It's not very much, it's not very less. Everything just looks very clean. And lastly, their imagery is always on point. And that is one thing I envy, because as a creative and everything, and if you're only working with stock images, you cannot create every picture that you would like to see. But now I'm just creating my mood board on Pinterest and coming up with inspiration for the brand and trying to create the mood and theme that we want to go for. I want to keep it simple with this logo. I want to keep it very simple. I'm not going to do any icon or anything. I'm just going to go for a very clean looking typography. Maybe tweak some things in the typography there and try to create something. But it's going to be very simple. When you look at Apple, their branding is not all the way up there. That's why that's what makes it very iconic, because it's very simple and clean. And that is what I want to achieve with this brand. Since I created two variations of the logo of blank, I needed feedback on how the logo was looking like, because I was not sure. I felt like my logo wasn't complete. So after posting a poll on my Instagram and people voting, I came with one option. and that is that I had to scrap the logo entirely. And I got some very good constructive feedback from my friends, and that is what is always going to help me to like what I'm creating is that what it also shows. And the outdoor brand was not the vibe this logo was giving, so I decided to switch it up and come up with a new name, and that was Peak. And even Peak, just like when you're doing something, you're going beyond a thing. I'll pop the brand story here in the story. I think I really liked Peak because it stood one. You're climbing mountains. When you're going through an experience, there's a certain peak and high you reach. When you're outdoor hiking, when you're exercising, when you're doing these outdoor adventures, there's a certain high you get from these things. And I thought, why not come up with the name Peak? And that's why we designed the logo. I switched it up, designed a whole different logo, decided to use a more clean font that was able to showcase the vibe of the brand. Logos side by side made me realize that blank was not the very good option for an outdoor adventure brand because it was just giving more coffee instead of outdoor. So I'm happy I made the switch, and that is why for the upcoming time we're going to be working on that and finalizing the entire brand by creating some mock-ups. And if you're interested in seeing what inspired me to create this brand, make sure you check my Pinterest board. It's going to be in the description. If you have made it this far to the end of the video, I want you to comment a star so I can know that you completely watched the video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, where I also share some more info on my behind the scenes and everything that I'm working on. And I'll see you guys next week Friday.